Yesterday, I posted the best team for ORAS Remastered, and in that, I referenced a video where I was going to cover mons that didn't quite make the cut. So today, we're going to cover why these mons didn't make the best team for ORAS. If you have not seen the best team for ORAS video, I would suggest giving that a watch before going further into this. With that said, let's begin. First and foremost, we have the two alternate starters, Blaziken and Sceptile. Let me just outright say, Sceptile and Blaziken are both incredibly solid mons for Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, especially Blaziken. But let's cover Sceptile first. The problem with Sceptile is just grass types in general across Hoenn don't really hold that much value aside from a few matchups. Those matchups are only really Wallace, some of Team Aqua if you're playing Alpha Sapphire, and Drake due to its Mega Evolution. I just can't see any justification using it when 1. Better electric types exist, 2. Energy Ball is a post-game TM, yeah, Leaf Blade is great, but its superior stat is its special attack. 3. While it does get Dragon-type attacks, they're only physical, and its Mega typing of Dragon only comes in handy for Drake, while also being weak to his Dragon types. I think most of you guys understand and agree why Sceptile wasn't chosen as the best starter, especially when mons like Blaziken and Swampert exist, so I'm not gonna spend a lot of time here. Blaziken, however, is the starter that has given a lot of debates, and for good reason. It's an absolutely fantastic Pokemon hands down, especially given its Mega and reputation across competitive Pokemon. Blaziken missed the cut, not even barely, but by the smallest of hairs. In some ways, I actually kind of feel silly arguing this. But it's not here, because Swampert just walls most of the early game with its massive typing combination. Its ground typing allows it to dominate so many battles, and only having one weakness makes it a very deadly physical monstrosity, especially accounting for its Mega and the combos you can run with Rain Dance. But there's also a downside. From an in-game perspective, it's already outspeeding pretty much everything. Its Mega just seems like overkill. It just seems redundant for it to have. Its primary typing of Fire also doesn't really bring much to the table, given that Grass and Ground types are pretty rare. Its Fighting type also already lays waste to opposing Ice and Steel types as well. Its moves also hinder it, with most of its stab options not having 100% accuracy. Swords Dance is phenomenal when paired with its Mega, allowing for team sweeps as early as turn 1. A high-risk, high-reward strat that essentially needs it to hog the Mega slot. Something that, while cool, isn't needed, especially with the primals in tow. But ultimately, with building the team, we were looking for something very consistent that craps on whole boss teams. Something that, building R4 around Swampert, was very easy to do. Outside of the starters, the next biggest debate was definitely between Hariyama and Breloom. Like I mentioned in the best team, there is no right or wrong answer here. Both of these choices have merit to them. The bottom line is that they were both considered for taking out Norman, as that is their primary purpose as fighting type Pokemon. Both do fine against him, but we questioned what we needed more. A little more speed or bulk? Ultimately, we came to the decision we wanted more bulk, due to Norman's Slacking having Retaliate. Hariyama having more bulk to that led us to the decision to use that, on top of it also having access to Detect. A Detect Makuhita can be obtained from the Granite Cave via Dex Snapping. Detect can cheese the Norman fight, locking Slacking in the Truant, thus bullying him pretty hard. However, Dex Snapping Makuhita can be incredibly tedious, so that's why swapping into Gyarados with Intimidate also helped greatly with this. The same strat also works with Breloom. However, without Technician, Mach Punch lacks power, and it doesn't get any good physical grass type attacks until Seed Bomb, and that isn't until level 44. Plus, like how I mentioned prior with Sceptile, Grass is only really super useful in one battle, and that is against Wallace. The other downside is one of its biggest pieces of utility, being Spore, isn't accessible until level 40 as a Shroomish. So Shroomish would have to wait until level 40 to evolve, which just seems like way too much work to get, and it requires forfeiting the one battle it's on the team for. The last reason why Hariyama barely made the cut was due to its stick fat ability, and with that, it was huge against Glacia, as it pretty much carried that entire battle. Moving on to other fighting types, these ones are not too hard to debate. Gallade is an excellent choice, and in most cases, I would argue it. The problem is that Gardevoir outclasses it here, not only with its dual typing, but also with earlier availability. The Dawnstone can't be obtained until Victory Road after the player defeats Wally. It can be obtained from Super Training. The problem is it's extremely tedious to get. If we also had to prioritize a better Elite Four fight with Gardevoir versus a better Norman fight with Gallade, choosing Gardevoir is the better option, because Mega Gardy absolutely slays the likes of Sydney and Drake, as well as having the raw power of Stab, Moonblast, and Psychic. Plus, Gallade needs 3 heart skills for it to be the best it can be, given it learns Close Combat, Leaf Blade, and Night Slash via Move Relearner. Medicham is also another great example. It has Detect and an early Mega. The downside is it's not available until after Norman, missing its most important battle that could have put Hariyama out of a job. The Whitney Slayer is once again another phenomenal fighting type. The issue? In-game availability. You do not get it until the Safari Zone, which is of course after the Norman fight. It does have a great Mega evolution though, with potential in the Tate and Liza, but Mega Gyarados and Swampert are already enough of a match for it, and they do the job equally as good, if not cleaner. Next up are the other Dark type options. We'll start with Absol and its Mega. Absol is a previous member of the best team for ORAS, and it did perform well. It has favorable matchups against Tate and Liza, as well as Phoebe. However, Absol is a late game Dark type that is also frail with bad physical coverage moves. Ice Beam is the only relevant coverage it gets. The others are nice, but only having 75 base special attack makes it that much more unappealing. Having a third Mega slot also just seems like overkill. A few other Dark types that can be considered are Spiritomb and Sharpedo. Sharpedo is decent. The issue is its Mega Stone isn't available till post-game. If that weren't the case, it would have an argument to be on the team. Gyarados on its own, even without its Mega though, performs better as a water type, both in offense and bulk especially. Spiritomb misses the Tate and Liza fight, courtesy of needing Dive to reach it, and it only helps with Phoebe otherwise. In most best teams, I usually consider flyers, but with ORAS's unique circumstances having the soaring item, they're not really needed. Let's go over some regardless though. A previous member to the ORAS best team was Crobat. The Crobat line does have some favorable matchups against the likes of Brawly and some of Wally's mons and Sydney's mons. Crobat specifically doesn't do much outside of that second gym battle, outside of just picking off low HP foes. Its poison typing is almost completely useless, with the big redeeming factor of evolving around Mount Chimney. Still, its utility usage is unneeded, so that's why it's not here. Swellow falls victim to everything Crobat does, except its normal type is better as neutral coverage. But it has way worse bulk. Does have Brave Bird as a move reminder, I guess, but after hitting off a few of those, especially if you have Guts procced, it just dies to recoil. Guts can be handy, but having to constantly proc it can get pretty annoying. Other regular Pokemon that were discussed were Roserade, Manectric, Alakazam, Flygon, and Salamence. We'll get to the legendaries in a short bit. Roserade, like Breloom and Sceptile, has the grass type issue, with not only the type not having great matchups, but also not getting Energy Ball and needing Petal Dance for a role an electric type can handle for the most part. Its poison typing runs into the same problem with Crobat, aside from the rival Sceptile battle. And then, the one shiny stone that's the easiest to get for it is after the battle in Fortree, being, in my opinion, a little too late to get. Manectric was on the previous best team for ORAS, but the problems we found with it mainly came from its lack of coverage moves only really being fire. Also, for it to be used to the best of its capabilities, its Mega is also needed, which limits it a lot. We chose Magnezone due to its Steel typing helping out with Norman, Tate and Liza, and Glacia. Magnezone just sadly outclasses Manectric. Alakazam wasn't put on the team because it was bad. That is just simply not the case. Alakazam is goated in every way possible. The issue, I'm sure a lot of you guys know, is its trait evolution, which limits a lot of people using it in general. I also think Guardy is just slightly better because of its Stab Fairy, access to Thunderbolt, and better Sydney and Drake battles. But it's still great for Brawly, being a Kadabra. It does get a really early Mega Stone, and you can run Dazzling Gleam. I honestly hate saying we didn't choose Alakazam, because it is still extremely good in ORAS. Do not let me dissuade you from using it if you have access to Trait Evolution. I love Flygon to death, but I hate the journey of evolving Trapinch. With the experience share, sure, it is easier, but you barely get to use it because Vibrava is so frail and it gets knocked out so easily. Flygon's offensive type matchups also struggle with Swampert and Gardevoir in the picture because they both do Flygon's roles much better, especially with Earthquake being an option for most physical attackers. Lastly in this group, we have Mence. And you guys know, Mence is amazing. It really is. But it's extremely late, and you don't get its Mega until post-game. Its Flying Pull is also lacking, which sucks. Now, we have the Legendary group. And this probably sounds pretty redundant, mentioning why legendaries didn't make the cut on what's supposed to be considered as the quote-unquote best team. Firstly, the Lotties. This duo of psychic types have to compete with Gardevoir's availability and a fairy type's offense, pretty much making their dragon moves seem redundant. They do get access to Ice Beam and Surf though, which Guardy does not. However, Guardy does edge this out because it too has access to T-Bolt, Focus Blast, and Shadow Ball. Giratina and Thundurus are both legendaries you can get pre-post game, and that is pretty sick. With Giratina though, it requires the player to have Dialga and Palkia, which requires some kind of trade, making it inaccessible for most people. If you can get your hands on it though, it gets Shadow Force, Aura Sphere, Earth Power, and Draco Meteor, thus making it excellent to use in every Elite Four battle. Thundurus is a bummer, because it's only accessible in Alpha Sapphire. If it was available in both games, it could be argued to take Magnezone's place. It gets access to Dark Pulse and Focus Blast, gets good matchups into Wallace and Phoebe, with usage also going into Glacia and Steven. Prankster Thunderwave also gives it use against everything, but it does lack Flying Stab, and Focus Blast's hit rate makes it a little shaky. These cons just make using the Mon that remade Gen 5 and 6 VGC into its own image a little awkward to use, which is very unfortunate. Well, that wraps up the Mons that didn't make the cut for the best team for Hoenn. Most of these reasons are just due to in-game availability, because most of these Mons are excellent in competitive use. The in-game perspective just shapes them differently because it isn't just battles that are factored in. If that was the case, we would most certainly have a full team of the most broken legendaries. Trading also hinders a lot of Mons as well, which sucks. Because, like I said prior, Alakazam is simply amazing. Anywho though, do you agree with these Mons not making the cut? Do you think there are Mons that I missed? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below.